Hello, everyone. It's me. Well, hello, one. I just see there's one person on right now. Who is it? Who is on here? Who's seeing me? Hi. Um, yeah, I can't find my original. Usually I have the painting up that we're doing, but you saw the picture. However, I did it a long time ago when Paint with Janet first started, and I'm. Hi, Pearl. Nice to see you or hear from you or see your name. I'm glad you said hi. Yeah, so usually I have them, but I have about 6 banker's boxes filled with my prototypes because I've been doing this for well over 10 years, even though this is my debut on YouTube. Um, so I can't find it. I can't find it. But I have done it a gazillion times. And so I could probably just paint it in my sleep. It's probably one of the more simpler paintings. Um, kind of when the paint and sip industry first started, people were doing these like super simple paintings, and I got a lot of those requests. Um, I don't really like cartoony too much, but I will do it, close to Christmas or something like that. Close to, you know, but a silhouette isn't really cartoony. So this is a silhouette of a great horned owl, and it goes really fast. So I'll try to go slow, but it does. So you don't need to fuss about this. It's so simple, and I'll offer you some ways of just kind of fancying it up. Um, you need just blue and yellow and white and black. However, if you want to spruce it up, I can show you how to add in a little red into that blue to kind of make it a hint purpley, but really darkens it up. And Or, so if you want to keep your red handy, I'll show you that. But you really only need the basics. You only really need white, black, yellow, and blue. And I don't think originally I put iridescent or metallic paint in there. But I did suggest that people, if they had metallic paint, that they could use it. Sometimes it's nice to put a little shimmer in the moon, and I'll show you how to do that. I'll use a different metallic than I used on the dragonflies last week. I'll use a different color just to kind of give you a hint. Um, but you don't have to have that. I mean, it's just going to be beautiful no matter what. And it's just a fun, easy painting. Now, when I said that, so one time I did these 3 small, and I'm repurposing a canvas because I painted it so many times. I end up giving them away because people really like them. I guess because they're so simple, yet, a nice color. Blue is very soothing. So I just repurposed a canvas. I just put white on it. You don't need gesso, and you don't have to have perfect coverage with acrylic because acrylic is really kind of opaque. It's not translucent so much. Now the yellow is very translucent. However, I'm mixing a little bit of white with that yellow anyway. Um, so that's going in there. And yeah, so I didn't really need to, have this perfectly white coverage, and it's just going to make the painting look interesting. So it's nice to repurpose a canvas when you're not using it. Sometimes I think this one was from a class that I did, and somebody didn't show up to the last class, so had started a painting and didn't stop it, so I just used the canvases. And these are flat canvases. I just find them easier to store in my house. And if you're painting in person with me, I will do one with a bit of a frame on it, like an edge, and sometimes a bigger one. So then I do have this little guy. He's been through the ringer. I actually use them as little platforms to do my examples on. This little guy, I had I was displaying at like a little, I don't know, um, bazaar or something, because I wanted just to promote my classes. And I had sort of a step by step, like I had 3 steps on how to do this painting. And this was years and years ago. So I've been using them ever since. It's just kind of these because somebody wanted to buy the final one. So it was just, I'm like, well, it's not really for sale, but sure, you can buy it like $20. I don't know. But I just use it. So yeah, so I do have one of the originals maybe, and yeah. So here we go, and I am going to use my lemon yellow, and I'm going to use my phthalo blue. Doesn't matter which one. It's just that some people ask me what I'm using, so I'm just letting you know which one. Last week I used my ultramarine blue, and I don't want my blues to get jealous of each other, so therefore I am using my phthalo blue. Phthalo blue has a hint of a teal feel to it. If you're using like a dark blue and you have a teal, use the teal first and then a really ultramarine. You know, ultramarine blue is probably closer to true blue. Um, and it's also from the lapis lazuli, so it's that genre of blue. That was the original blue. Hi, Liz. How are you? So let me know where everybody's from. I am from Ontario, Canada, near Ottawa, our nation's capital. Very close to Ottawa in a small town, about 10,000 people, but we're really, really close to the bigger city. And Ottawa is not a huge city. It's a beautiful, beautiful city, our nation's capital. Lots of green space, just really beautiful. Not quite like Toronto. A lot of people think Toronto is our nation's capital, and not so much. Hi, Dawn. How are you? And yeah, so simple. Next week is going to be watercolors, and these two were the very first. This was the very second one I did online. The very second one I did online was this one. Hi, Pearl. Oh, should I use medium hue yellow or light? So either one. I'm using lemon yellow just to let you know, but I use different. I mean, I use different yellows all the time, just because people worry. Oh my God, well, is that the right yellow? And I'm like, well, today I'm using this one. So it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I just use, if I haven't used the like, I usually use my primary yellow, and then I'm like, I haven't used my lemon yellow in a while, so I'll do that. It's going to be the same. It's not like you have to match a perfect color. It's just a very stylized painting. That's all. It's just the enjoyment is what's important. So use your paint color that you like today, especially when you're doing a stylized painting, you know, or go eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Really isn't that important. So if you do have red, keep it handy, and I will show you how to kind of tweak a little bit here and there with some red later, but I didn't say to have that. And then if you do have some brownish color, you can use that too if you want. But I'll just sort of bring that in later, but you don't need it. You can just go with a flat black, you know, what am I saying? Black, you know, silhouette. Oh God. So anyway, let's get into it. We have 5 people on. I wish there was more, but some people were watching it afterward, I noticed. So please like and even comment on the video afterward if you go back and like it. It's nice that people are interacting with it, and it gets sort of more airtime on YouTube, and the more interaction that the videos have, because it's really hard for people who don't know me to find me on YouTube at this point. And definitely subscribing. If you can ask friends to subscribe, there is no, subscribing sounds weird. It sounds like you are, you know, subscribe to a magazine and you have to pay money. No, there's no money. YouTube is free, always will be free. That's why they play with ads. They do ads all the time. I don't do ads. I think on the live streams they don't have ads because it's just different. However, on other ones they do. And sometimes people do paid advertising if they get lots and lots of followers. Like maybe with my paints, people might ask me to, put a couple of shouts out to my paint, which I do anyway. And then they might pay me. You never know. You never know. You never know on YouTube. And they're always changing the rules. That was sort of, anyway, let's get into it. So there's my repurposed canvas. It doesn't matter if you get perfectly covered white. I just used my white paint. I did not use gesso. You don't have to with acrylic paint because you don't need it perfectly light. And I couldn't find that's why I don't have my example painting, but seriously, I can do this in my sleep because I've done it so many times. So many times it's crazy. So let's see. Where is my palette? So here's my palette. And like I said, I'm going to grab some lemon yellow. And just because I haven't used it in a while. And so and you don't need much of it. But you'll find with lemon yellow, if you use lemon yellow, you have, you might need a bit more of it than you do with the primary yellow. Lemon yellow actually has the barest hint, to get it to go to that lemon limey stage, the barest hint of blue in it. Like in a gallon, it probably has a toothpick of blue in it. Just to get it to go. Because it's a cooler yellow. Like cool, it's cool. It's cool like me. But cooler as in cold. So you can tell it has that the barest hint of blue, like if they were doing a vat of it. I'm just going to try and get this just a bit more central here. There we go. Yeah, so then I'm going to get some white, and I have really thick paint. Doesn't matter if you have dollar store paint. Somebody at the beginning of the pandemic used old makeup because they couldn't get paint. The thing is the enjoyment. You don't need to match my colors. And I'm putting some phthalo blue on here. If you only have ultramarine or you have turquoise, that's fine. And you don't need a whole lot of blue. But I'm usually doing examples, so I put a little bit extra on there. I'm not putting out my black yet. I don't need to, but see, it passes the DQ test, my paint. It's a high viscosity. So if you're buying a thick paint and you're not sure what high viscosity means, it means that. It means it's, passes the DQ test. And it'll form, you can actually form a Dairy Queen peak with it, and it won't crack. We don't need to put the black on yet. And I did say if you wanted to put some iridescent in or whatever, or silver, you could. I didn't on the original. I just thought, like, if you want to kind of liven up your moon or put a little hint of shimmer in your moon, that's good. So, hi Trish from Brockville. Nice to see you on. So this is my Desserts one. Desserts changed up their metallics. They used to have them like this, and they were very, very thick. And this silver is very translucent. This silver is called hematite. And they're actually really super minerally as opposed to like pink metallic. But these are all super minerally. They're absolutely stunning. This one, like the gold is, oh my gosh, citrine, like citrine. Isn't that gorgeous? Like, oh my God. It's absolutely yummy, 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 yummy. Yeah, so I have a few different types. I think I have all of them that they have. Fire opal, absolutely gorgeous. And my favorite, baby poo in metallic, which they call it jadeite. So I don't know how they get jadeite, but They're really minerally. They're absolutely beautiful. So I'm just going to use a little bit of that to show you. I didn't on the original, and I wouldn't, except that I said, you know, if you have some metallic-y, whatever, I'll show you. Whatever you choose. Okay? Because this is such a basic painting, I can show you little tips and tricks how to spruce it up. So, to start, and again, I didn't need gesso for this. There was just some old stuff on it, and it wasn't a full painting, and just, you know, so don't want to waste. This, especially my white, is really going to cover. I'm going to get a lot of coverage from this. And then, of course, blue is going to cover everything. And then if a little bit of other color kind of shines through, it's going to look nice. So it doesn't matter if you have a perfectly white canvas. And you don't always need gesso. As long as you've got, they've already been gessoed, but as long as you've got white, titanium white, not zinc mixing white. Zinc mixing white is really see-through, very translucent. So let's start with the yellow. And I want to sort of set up where I'm going to put my moon. People tend to put it dead center. We want our painting to look a little interesting. So like we want sort of the tree trunk over here, maybe the owl here. So maybe just slightly off center here. Nothing has to always be perfectly center. Okay, just to have it interesting. So planning your thing, you know, planning your stuff is better. So I'm going to actually kind of scoop quite a lot of my yellow, because yellow is really light. Plus we're going to be putting some white on there anyway, because I don't really, the moon isn't that yellow, but I really want this stylized. So therefore I'm doing yellow. The moon tends to be whatever kind of color the sun is reflecting on it. So I'm just going to start. You see, I'm kind of pushing down and I'm rotating around one corner of my brush. And that gives me a nice circle. Okay. Then I'm going to take another one, another big scoop, and it's not 100% filled in. I'm going to take, this is my 1-inch brush, the regular brush I always use. No secrets. I always use that for the background, my 1-inch flat, and I'm going to use a 1/2-inch flat. And that's it. Simple dollar store brush. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. Then, so now I'm going to take this one width of my brush again around that moon. Okay. And now, because now I've got some paint left on here, and I'm not really looking to have an abrupt blue. Maybe I want it slightly teal, not super green, but a little more teal. Now, phthalo blue does wander into teal. So I'm going to do a few, sort of emptying my brush because I had a lot of paint on there. I'm going to do a few bands, keeping with that same arch of the moon. So don't go straight. Keep, even if you have to turn your canvas because you have a natural curve to the hand. If you don't have enough left over, because some people don't dip enough when I'm painting in person, I'm running behind people going, dip or scoop the paint, you know, because they'll do this little dip. And it's like, oh my God, you need paint to paint. And so the people in person train me for you guys. So I'm not looking for a ring. I'm not looking for a perfect ring. I'm looking for a few kind of arches going around in that yellow. That's it. That's all. Super simple. Super duper simple. Okay. Then, and if you're just coming on, you're wondering why I don't have an example painting. I can't find it because I painted years and years ago. I have about 6 banker's boxes filled with my prototypes, which are 9 by 12, and they fit in the banker's box perfectly. I'm trying to rearrange my studio, my mess here. So it's been, I'm like, I can't find them. Okay, now we're going to go with the white. Okay, we want a little white, just a little white in our And I do want some white in the moon. I'm just going to gently pull my white around the moon. Okay, just going to gently pull the white around the moon. See, I'm not trying to get a perfect circle of white. Okay, there's some bands. Then I'm going to take my white, and I did not wash my brush, leaving that yellow on there because the yellow is so light, it's not going to affect anything. And I'm going to do some arcs, some of those little arcs. I'm not doing perfect circles right now. Okay, I'm just doing little arcs of white, touching the moon too. You can touch the moon. Now, as I go out, I'm using a little just white, and if it goes over the yellow that's already there, that's fine. If it goes beside the yellow, that's fine too. Okay, so you see how my canvas is kind of disappearing, all of that junk in the back? And that's fine. Notice I haven't touched any water yet. Not touched water, not touched anything, nothing like that. Okay, now as we go down here, you don't do it yet. As we go down here, your arc is going to get softer, but it's still going to be an arc. So resist the urge to go straight or straight this way. Still, even in the corner, it'll be a soft arch. So when you do those brush strokes, they're really softly arced, okay? Hi, Rhonda. Nice to see you on. Okay, now we're going to go into the blue, okay? And because our first dip of blue has the most frequent wavelength, high frequency. Look at the difference between yellow and blue. High frequency. Okay, so we're going to start away from the moon. So it does a hostile takeover. It takes over everything. People with blue eyes have no pigment. They actually are being taken over by blue. Okay, so blue, here we go. I'm going to start here, just a little bit further away from the moon. I'm going to start plunking my blue on. Remember, I wanted it to look a little more turquoisey or teal. So, and I want it a bit lighter. So that's why I'm starting a bit further away, and I have that yellow in there. Now I'm starting to kind of get almost all coverage of my canvas. So there was canvas peeking out. As I get close to the moon, I'm going to keep that nice arch, and I got close to the moon as my brush emptied. So you see the gradient there? And sometimes it kind of skipped a little. I can just go back the opposite way and just put a little bit of pressure in there. Now the thing is, you don't want to go over and over this brush stroke a lot because it's just going to look like a flat teal color, and then you might as well have just used straight up teal. So you just want this gradient of this nice arch. If your brush stroke went like that, because I want it curved, definitely go through that brush stroke. Okay, so I'm going to start again. I'm dipping again, starting from afar. Just notice that soft curve there, and just slowly, gradually coming into the moon. As I come to the moon, my arc gets a little tighter, right? And there we go. I can start to just do one circle around the moon and then leaving it. You want to leave that nice moon glow. You do have that moon glow in the sky, and you want it nice and stylized. I'm going to start again from back here. Okay, if your paint is really thick and it's not flowing, touch your brush to a tiny bit of water, but mine's doing all right, so I don't think I need to. And I'm going to start from back here. And I'm going to slowly, as my brush empties, go in to the moon. Just in toward the moon, barely. And if you see where there's like a start of a brush stroke there, don't go the same way you went. Go back through it with a soft brush touch. And then you won't see that ridge. I'll show you that again. So you see, if I start like that, Don't try and pull that. Pull the opposite way. Okay, and then you're going to get a nice soft brush stroke. So the key is not to overdoing this. The key is to just get this lovely, soft gradient toward that teal kind of color, and letting, if you see like a perfect ring, just kind of mess that up with a little back and forth. So we don't want to see just the straight, like a flat color. So if you start going over and over it, you don't get to see the glow. You don't get to see the lovely brush strokes. You can almost see each and every brush stroke in there. I'll bring it close. There we go. So you just want it soft. And then as I go outward, I'm going to pick up more blue, a little more blue. I'm not 100% going to fill in because the blue is dark. So I'm just going to get that blue on. See how my arch is softer, but it's not straight. Okay, so it's like these little wry smiles. And I'm always picking it up here, and then I get this huge lump of paint on my finger. Sometimes I try to stay not too messy. Okay, now see, I've got these nice arches on. Now I'm going to take a little bit of water. I'm going to take a tiny bit of water, and instead of doing it just flat like that with the blue, the water is going to create a little bit of depth and a little bit of value, having different amounts of blue on the canvas, as you see some canvas peeking through. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a tiny bit of water, barely graze the surface of the water, and go right in between where that white canvas was one time. And you see variations. It's hard to see because the paint is wet, but you're seeing that value of blue, which is kind of nice. You're seeing the streaks through the night sky. Okay, and I got a big thumbprint there. So I'm going to go back, fix it. I'm going to take a tiny bit more. We don't want drips, so that's why we're just barely grazing the surface of the water, the meniscus. And you guys know I like to say meniscus. Also the thing that I wrecked in my knee a couple of years back. But yet meaning very different things. So you see where I've got these little specks of canvas showing through. I'm just taking the edge here. Instead of going through a ton of times, I'm just going through a couple of times. And you see with my repurposed canvas, nobody noticed, you know. And I didn't have to go completely black, or sorry, completely white with that repurposed canvas. I can put a few more streaks of blue hinting toward here, but not much. Okay, you don't want to overdo this. I want to keep it nice and streaky, nice and glowy. And you don't want it too dark near the moon, because that's where the owl is gazing. And if it's too dark, you're not going to see your silhouette. Now, I did promise to show people, if you wanted to get a bit more depth in the outer parts here, then just take the tiniest hint of red, and it's going to go on quite, it's going to look brighter when it goes on. And I didn't include that in the ingredients, in your ingredients, but just to give it a little bit of something, just to oomph or whatever, you take the tiniest bit of red, just a primary red, and, or you could take purple, but purple is really dark. And I just, so I'll show you. I'm just gonna, I don't need the red, so I don't need the spoon to stay in it. I don't need to keep it open. So you see, I just put that tiny bit of red right on top of my blue. So this is, be really careful, because purple, when I said that blue is the highest frequency, it's actually violet. Violet has a high frequency. So the minute you add red, something happens to blue. Instead of going lighter like red is, because red is lighter, it's weird. You're adding a lighter color to a darker color and then it goes really dark. So I'm just going to kind of pick up the leftover blue with some of that red. And I'm going to, because maybe I want it a bit deeper, darker here. So you see already, and I'm just going to go through with these soft, just a few very soft little hints of red through there. And it just gives a little more depth to your night sky. And that's going to dry really, really dark. If it looks a bit too red, go one scoop through that way. But it's going to go really, really dark without adding black. So you don't always need to have black in your night sky for, And I ended up getting a big thumbprint there. And, with just, and I didn't even use that much red. And it went really dark, really fast. So I'm just going to use what's left over on here. And you don't have to do that. Like, please don't do it if you don't have your red handy. And just like a few little, it's just adding some more depth. It's just a way to fancy it up a bit more. And it's going to dry really, really, really dark. Now we're done with that big brush. So now we want to put it in water. What I suggest is that you only put it in water to cover it. Now this paintbrush is covered in paint, so it's hard to see. But if ever you are using your brushes, I always say, this is the brush, the bristles, the ferrule or the metal, and this is your handle. So there's glue holding the handle. Only put the water in to cover the bristles, so like halfway up the ferrule, because otherwise they're going to come apart. Even if they're just dollar store brushes, you don't want to keep having to replace them, and it'll break down the glue. So if you've got water up to here, it's going to break down the glue holding the handle. And that's it for the background. And I did get a little drip going through, which I don't like. So see, I do have a drip, and you will kind of see that. So I'm going to take a little paper towel and kind of go back and forth one time through that. It'll catch the drip. I added a little bit of paint to it. Okay. So I really don't want it too drippy at this point, because I want the arc. I don't want a big drip going through. And that's why I say be super careful when touching that water. Okay, so just break the meniscus. Don't get it all super soaking wet. And that's just a fun, stylized background that you can do with any silhouette. Absolutely any silhouette. So, you can put dragonflies in there like we did last week. You can put, it's just nice to be able to do a standard kind of fun silhouette. And if you wanted to do something like this for a kid's room, it's really, you can put colors that they like in there. I've done this painting, like I said, so many times that I tend to, sometimes I'll use different colors. Like I might use pink and purple. That looks really, really nice. Or I might use, just straight up kind of blue, and even blue and brown look really, really nice together too. But you would want to really lighten your brown. Now I did say, I promised that we might do a little bit of metallic-y in here. I'm switching brushes, and now I'm going to stay with this brush the entire time. So that's my 1/2 inch flat. And so I switch brushes when I want to touch my lighter color as well. So I am touching the lighter color, even though these hematite, it's gorgeous. It is a little bit translucent. I'll show you what it looks like on just a white scrap of paper. Oh, that's a scrap from last week. So It is a little translucent and it kind of goes silvery, but it can also be dark. So it can kind of really do a major shimmer and be super translucent too. And all I'm going to do with that is just kind of make little craters in the moon. Now I'm going to use the flat side of my brush, just like I'm patting it. So I'm not holding my brush like this. No death grips on the brush. Keep forgetting to tell people that. I'm literally going to hold my brush like that on top and pat it. So you see, hold it further away and pat it. So you see, I'm loading my brush. I have no paint on that side, paint on that side. So I don't want to get too much on here. In fact, I probably dripped out too much. Just like little craters in the moon. And using the flat side and kind of pivoting it here and there will make it not look so square. And it kind of messes up the brush stroke underneath to make it not look so like a perfectly round brush stroke. So I'm kind of moving, I'm twisting. So I'm doing this. So you see, I still have no bread. I have it on that side. So I'm just kind of doing this. I'm kind of twisting. Just smooshing. Smooshing is probably more the technical term. And then leave it. It's not much. It's very little. Very little. And, oh shoot, that's full of paint up there. Look at that. Oh my goodness. I start off thinking, oh, I'm going to be so careful. I'll pick it up with just a little piece of paper towel. And then, wham, I get covered. Just going to take off excess. Sometimes you get a little excess on the ridge on the side. Because when the brush goes by, it collects there. See? Ooh. And then I get it all over my hands. Even though I'm trying to be clean. Don't worry, it's non-toxic. So, here we go. So, there we go. Oops. There. I'm just catching the light there. Got a little shimmer. And also it can look like just little shadows in the moon, little craters. And there's a bunny in the moon, so you could technically try and do a bunny crater, but no. In fact, if anybody's local, anybody's close to Ottawa area, Carleton Place area, on Friday evening, we have the Ottawa Rabbit Rescue fundraiser in Carleton Place. So please come. All 6 of you. I've only got 6 people on. I can't believe this. Anyway, I know other people look later. I know they do. And I thank them. I thank all of you. And I do need to, yes, we need to grow this audience. So now let's look at our black. So now we're going to put away the blue. I'm going to just scale up my blue. I don't need it anymore. So I do shave and a haircut, 2 bits. Don't wipe your spoon on it. You can lick the spoon, but don't wipe it on the side because then it'll skin and it'll put weird textures in your paint, which we don't want. And I'm going to close up my yellow. The yellow is getting kind of thick, so shave and a haircut, 2 bits. Oops. Made a mess, imagine. So I always keep a little back, and I'm going to put a little bit of water in it as it thickens up. And it's just going to, by osmosis, go nice and smooth again. I just don't like them drying out, so as they get super thick, oops, something fell. I wonder what that was. Uh-oh. Oh dear, I don't want that falling. It's my red. Anyway, there we go. So black. Here we go. Need a little spoon. And you don't need a lot of black, but you need more black than you think you do. Okay, so I've said it before and I'll say it again. When you're doing silhouettes, if you don't get enough paint on there, I'm not cleaning this brush off, okay? It's only got a tiny bit of that on there and it's got a tiny bit of things on it, so it's not going to do anything to black. So you see how I just dipped? I'm going to get a nice arch there. Look at how sharp that edge is. I've got a nice sharp edge. But if I keep trying to pull it, it's going to go granular. You need to re-dip. You need to re-dip. So I come up behind you and say dip, 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 dip. And you get that nice, it's almost like you're pushing the paint. You need enough paint. It's not this tiny little dab will do you. So especially when you're doing silhouettes, you want that sharp edge. And then it's going to look really nice. It's going to have these clean lines, which is what you want. Now, for the barn owl, okay, for the barn owl, I'm going to show you a big one here. So where's my Julia? Julia usually tells you guys put brushes down and listen to the teacher. Just need a drink of water. I need to yell at you to put your brushes down. So, brushes down, listening to the teacher. The barn owl, or no, the barn owl, what is it? Great horned owl. Actually, barn owls too. But great horned owl, upside down teardrop. That's what you're starting with. Okay? I'm going to do a nice big one here. Look at that. Upside down teardrop. And it does not have to come to a perfect point. Nice fat teardrop. So look at that. See, it's not a skimpy teardrop. It is easier to go bigger than it is to go smaller with black and when you're doing silhouettes, but you just don't want to go too skimpy. Okay. So you can go bigger. So I can go bigger. If I'm going to go bigger, I'm going to push out. So don't try to outline, then fill in. Just fill it in right away, because then you're going to get lots of paint on there. And you see, I don't have a sharp edge there. I get more paint and I pull that down and I get a nice sharp edge. Don't worry about the bottom. We're not done. We're not done. Okay. Then the head is like a little hat. As we go in, like part way up, we go part way up as it's starting to face, as the curve, like if you were to bisect it, as the curve is starting to face, like say 2 o'clock, 2 and 10, like driving, 2 and 10, like a bug. Okay. 2 and 10. Then not past here. Okay, so not past there, not past the body. So we can make the body bigger. We're going to do a little hat. That's about a quarter. So this is half, this is a quarter. So about a quarter of the size of the body. Fill it all in. Don't just do these outlines. Okay, simple. Now, you've got a corner on your brush. See, there's a corner there. I'm going to just fill the corner, left corner, 2 and 10 for the horns. The great horned owl doesn't have horns on top of its head. It's actually feathers on the side of its head that look like horns. 2 and 10. 2 and 10 on here. Watch. So I'm going to stamp and I'll show you again. So I see I'm coming close. I am going to stamp at 10. Looks like little ears pulling in. I get the other side dipped, flat, pull in. Okay? It's not this. It is not this. You're not using your brush this way. You're using the flat side. Look at my brush. It's like using it as a stamp. Okay? Then you're going to, and it kind of pulls in like that. It's not like little ears. Okay? That's it. And, you know, it might be a little bit, they could be a little bit feathery. They don't have to be perfectly straight. Okay? So that edge does not have to be perfectly straight. So our moon is over here. That's our moon. So the owl is looking at the moon, looking for a silhouette of a bug to fly by or whatever it eats. It doesn't eat bugs. It eats mice and stuff. But he's looking at the moon because he's contemplating life. So when he's turning and looking at the moon, the way his feathers are going to go is toward that side of the moon. So his feathers, because he's turning his shoulder, okay, his shoulder, so to balance it, the feathers of his tail. So you're going to continue the side here, continue down here, just like this, and that same curve, and you're going to go down half an inch or 3/4 of an inch, because this is a big one. Half an inch later, you're going to go down like that with that curve. Then you're going to do 2 more like that. That looks like a fork. We don't want that. We want it to look like a tail. So I'm just going to sort of fill in like that. That's it. So simple. So simple. Then, because he's looking that way, okay? He's looking that way. He might, his back wing might be down like this. So I'm going to, so this side of the wing is tucked in because he's turning that way. And then his back wing is kind of going back. So half like up from the tail. And I start in with the wing and go like that. Okay? Now that looks weird. It's awkward. So what we do is just give it a little bit of depth like that. So simple. Okay? So it's just one line and then it ends up to be a little triangular. So simple. So simple. Okay? So don't overthink this. So simple. Okay. But we're not doing it that big. When I leave you to your own devices, you do it that big. However, depending on the size of your canvas, you want it at least the same size as the moon. Like the body, the same size as the moon, say. So, oh shoot. Now I got like a palm print there. Silly. Okay, so I'm going to do it over here. I want the head close to the moon, so the body's going to start here. Give yourself guidelines. Give yourself guidelines. I want the body to be roughly the same size as the moon, roughly. So here, those are my guidelines. There and there. You're allowed to give yourself guidelines. Okay, so now we start getting more paint, more paint. Get that nice upside down teardrop. If it's not gliding, get more paint and start to fill in. It's not a perfect outline. Okay, people obsess on that perfect outline and then they don't fill it, and then you can fill in as you outline. Okay, then 2 and 10, 2 and 10, 2 and 10, right? Those are our guidelines. We go up from here. So the head is going to look like it starts here, which it does. But from here, we use about 1/4 of this size. But it doesn't matter what size canvas I'm using it's all relative. It's about a quarter. This is 1/2 a quarter. We go up about a quarter. Okay, so the head is actually a bit bigger because it goes into that. So we go up about a quarter, get more paint, 2 and 10, and there we go. And I'm going to push my paint toward the outside to get a nice sharp edge, because I've got lots of paint on there. So a nice sharp edge happens when you kind of push the paint as opposed to try and pull the paint out. So notice when I'm inside, I'm doing this. I'm kind of pushing the paint as opposed to kind of pulling it over to that line. Then we want 2 and 10 again. 2 and 10. 2 and 10. 2 and 10 is the timing here. 2 and 10, but that's not enough. We want a little more depth, right? So I'm literally stamping with, like, let's say this is the corner. I'm stamping with the corner of that brush with the point faced outward. Okay, stamp. Turn it around because I've got lots of paint on that side. Stamp. There we go. And I could sort of muck that up a bit to make it look feathery. But you don't want to overdo it. Don't want to overdo it. Because those are feathers, they're not horns. And the great horned owl kind of has a flat-ish head. It's not overly round upward in there. Okay, now remember the tail. The tail is going to kind of go toward the moon, but it's not going to be flayed out. Oh my God. I have a friend who paints her. I got to show you this. And you're going to laugh, and then you're probably going to do it because I just showed it to you. She'll do this. All her birds. And I was like, bird tails, don't do that. She'll do this. So don't do that. They don't do that. A peacock might when it's flayed out and it's trying to strut its stuff. A bird tail is typically like that, like a robin or any bird. It's straight out. It does not flare. If it flares the tiniest bit toward the end. Tiniest bit. Very unrecognizable flare. Okay, so with this, the way this is curving, I'm going to go less out with that, and probably half an inch. Okay, I'm going to bring this closer. Half an inch. I know it's in the dark of the thing. And then I'm going to do one more, and then one more. It's shorter as you go up. Okay, that's it. That's it. Then down here, because they do have rather long wings, it's just the idea of the shoulder. And I could bring that shoulder out a bit more on that side. That's it. That's all. Very little in that owl. Okay. The reason why we do the owl first, not the branches, is because sometimes if you have to expand your owl, it's harder to do that with it sitting on a branch. Now, sitting on the branch, I get people sitting them on the branch in all kinds of ways. Okay. I'm going to show you an example of what not to do, and then you guys are probably going to do that. Drive me crazy, you guys. Okay, so here's our owl. Oh, he's not very nice. There's this little great horned owl, and he's got his tail. Oh my God, some people do the branch way down here. No. The bird needs to sit on his, like, they do have a little bit of a bum when they're resting on the branch, so it's got to be up here. Okay, so it's above the tail and above where the point is. So you got to figure the tail is actually starting about here. not just where you started from here. And the branch is going to go through here. Okay? Now you're going to dip in the paint, and you're going to just use that brush straight on, as in 90 degrees from your canvas. Okay, 90 degrees. It's not a pencil, it's a paintbrush. Start trying to tilt it. So all bristles engaged, meaning this, all bristles engaged. Not like this. Not, oh, shoot, I got a big thing of black up there in the corner. That's all right. Look what you guys made me do. It's all right. It's going to have a branch there. Don't worry about it. Okay, all bristles engaged, and I am going to kind of get my guideline of my branch. Now I want that branch to be different. I don't want it to be straight, not a bird on a wire. Okay, so I'm just kind of dotting out the branch. That's it. So this is the main branch. Now I'm going to dip more in the paint, and I'm going to go for it. And I want maybe the branch is going to be a little rough because sometimes the bark is rough. And I'm just kind of going back and forth with my brush stroke. But it's always right bang on here, okay? So even if I'm going back and forth, my brush doesn't leave and all bristles are still engaged. See, then I get a rough edge to my branches. If I want, because they're going to be sitting on a fairly heavy branch, they're a big bird. They're not going to be sitting on a twig, okay? And I'm going to do that. Then as I want to go thinner, I'm going to do a takeoff, takeoff, to the Great White North. More paint. So I'm going to go straight up just to show you, or straight on an angle. I'm going to all bristles engaged. Then I rock the handle down and look, I get a thin branch. And so I'll show you without any paint so you can see the way the bristles are. And you see how it's just like creating a little flare? It's not this. You're going to get a smush. Okay, the minute I turn my brush that way, I go fat. Okay, you want to go thin. Now I have a really fat brush because my bristles went like that. If that happens, pinch the end and get more paint back on it though, because that paint's going to hold it nice. Okay, and maybe this branch is going to start back there and go out. It's harder to see in the dark blue, but as I go with my branches, I'm going to maybe have another branch kind of going in behind and looping through. And if your branch kind of skips a little bit, sometimes the moonlight can be so strong, like don't go back and fill that in. So you can see it's kind of skipping a bit there. It's just the moon glow kind of blinding you to the beauty of the branch. And then of course, we might have another branch coming up because they cross over each other. Again, that makes your painting interesting, going right in behind that owl and kind of going off into, and they're not T's at the end, they are Y's and W's and V's. I still get people doing this and it drives me crazy. I still have people doing that with branches. And they know not to, but I don't know, something happens in their mind and they do it. It drives me crazy. And I'm talking adults, not kids. But okay, and then I want another bigger branch coming through here. So I'm going to use the fat part of my brush and have it going wobbly. Maybe it's an old oak tree. And I'm putting lots of paint on and doing that. And now if you had some brown, you could put it in the on the branch a little bit, and that might liven up the black. I'm not going to do it right now, but I just said I'd mention it to you. You could do that. And then I want to, so the main part of the tree is coming here. So I'm just using the flat side of my brush, and I'm kind of going to wiggle it a little to get a rough edge. Okay. I might dip it in a little bit of water just so I can get good coverage over there on the right. And just kind of, and have it go a bit wider down at the base. So you're getting a lot more black. It's maybe an inch up here, and it might have like, so it's, see how it's not perfectly straight, and then it goes down. Okay. Now this is where you might want to put a little bit of white glow there, because the owl is so close to the moon, you're not going to see a white glow on the owl so much, but you might want to take a little hint of white and just kind of put it on that edge that's close to the moon. This is just little bits of whitish lightening it up. Okay. And then with this branch here, the one, now this one, I don't want to lift it up. I don't want to get a whole lot of black on me. And what I want to do is have it like a little bit, because it's going into the branch, into the tree. So I can take that little bit of white. Now that's a lot of white. Even the tiniest bit of white will affect the black. So I'm going to wipe it off. And see, I'm just sort of then gonna let it blend a little. You see how it just kind of went into that tree, and then I have a little bit of white starting under. It just gives a little bit of depth to it, that it's not just coming out straight from the one side. So you see how it just gives a little depth to it, that it's kind of coming out from the center of where we're looking. And so not too much with the white. And maybe as you get really close to the moon, you don't see the white because the white's on the other side of the moon. But as you go lower, you might see a little light on that side. And that's it. Like, you don't want to overdo that. But it's just on the top as you go into the thing. But then it starts under that again with that little bit of moon glow. So easy. So next week, it's going to be harder. That'll learn you. Not too much harder, just a little bit. Just a little bit harder. So next week will be watercolors. So I know people find it a little bit harder to do watercolors. So I usually take a lot of extra time for watercolors. And it's going, I think, now I've got a list written out. I haven't got them all posted. I usually post the events on Facebook. I'm not sure how far ahead I can, because I use StreamYard, I'm not sure how far ahead I can schedule these in. I might try, because I usually try and schedule so you know what's coming up on both YouTube and on Facebook. Oh, hardly any black, but lots of blue. I usually try to keep the black to a minimum because I end up with it all over the place. I'm doing them in person because I'm running around helping people, so I'm grabbing the paint and just sloshing it on. I think, because I have it written out by hand, I have my schedule written out. I just haven't got all, now I'm going to do, I just haven't had time to sit and do up all the events on Facebook in consecutive order until Christmas. I will be doing that darn Christmas tree with the truck. I know everybody loves it, but I think this is on the agenda for next week. I think that one is. on the agenda. So that I call like Autumn Solitude or something like that. And it's watercolor. So as there's a muck there, all my paintings get mucked up. I did this several times too. And as we get close to November, I'll probably do the poppies. So next week, that one, and then the poppies the following week. I really love the watercolor poppies. They're so pretty. So pretty. Yeah, and you just want to go free with the poppies. So you could put more branches in here. Like maybe it looks a little bare over here, over here. Like stick some more branches in there. Even wait till it's dry and put more branches in if you want. But yeah, you want to just kind of let it. I just threw mine out now. Because now that I look at it on the camera, I'm like, oh. Because when I'm looking at it in person, it looks different than always when I look at it as a whole. Yeah. So it's only 7:35, and this painting is so fast. I've done this in schools, like family fun nights. Did one where I literally had like 30 minutes to get the painting. Now they were working on a really small canvas, like probably this size, maybe. Yeah, probably that size. It's a really small canvas. And I was just like, it was like assembly line. I had like groups. It was like a family fun night at a school. I did it 3 times and I had 30 minutes to do it. Like, and then they rotated to another activity. So I had like 5 minutes in between to get all the paints out and ready. And then clean, and then getting the next group ready. It was absolutely crazy. I had a good helper that day because who knows my route, if you have a good helper that kind of knows your routine, then you can do that, especially with kids. But it was great fun. I only had like 2 or 3 meltdowns. Usually I get meltdowns from, I hate to say this, but girls tend to be harder on themselves at an earlier age. Everyone's hard on themselves, but at an earlier age, girls tend to be much harder on themselves. About 8 or 9 years old, they think that they should be perfect like the professional artist. So I typically get meltdowns on that, which it's just so sad. So I always have to remember to say, you're still growing. When you wrote your name in kindergarten, looks very different than when you wrote your name today. Your hands are still developing. You're still developing. So I have to I have to give them this prep talk to say, forgive yourself, because they will literally have meltdowns from the first brushstroke. If that first brushstroke doesn't look like mine, oh my God, it's absolutely crazy. So yeah, so I think that was like a huge family fun night and only had maybe 2 meltdowns, but at that point I couldn't dedicate much time to it. But it's just so sad. So sad. So I've taught in so many schools that in so many classes that I've learned to sort of try to get ahead of that, especially when I'm working with that age group. Yeah, but like I said, the boys do it a bit later, but oh my goodness, girls expect this perfection from themselves at such a young age. It's so sad, like just so sad. And yeah, so I don't know how I got onto that. Oh, because I was doing that in a class. So yeah, so I've done this with mega groups and big big stuff. So yeah, it gets a little crazy. So I will say goodbye and thank you for coming. And please get people to subscribe or share my YouTube page and ask. Yeah, so I need subscribers, man. So that it costs nothing. It's not like buying a subscription. So you would think I'd get more. I think I am not quite 100 now. I have 26,000 followers on Paint with Janet, so I should get more. Okay, thanks, Pearl. So goodbye, everyone. Thanks for coming. And yeah, so take care and share your painting on my page. I posted the reminder, so just post it under that. I posted the reminder for tonight. Just post your painting under that. So yeah, please share.